Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending the Basics of Professional Liability Insurance webinar featuring Sarah Juliona. Sarah is the marketing coordinator at CPH Insurance, and she has experience in both the underwriting and claims departments. CPH Insurance, formerly CPH and Associates, is a leading provider of malpractice insurance for mental health professionals throughout the United States. With our easy-to-use online platform and coverage that is tailored to meet your needs, CPH will protect your professional career from malpractice claims and lawsuits. I'm your host, Andrea Camp. I'm one of the sales managers with TherapySites, and we specialize in websites and online marketing solutions for mental health professionals. I'd like to personally welcome each and every one of you to this free educational event today. So during today's session, Sarah is going to ask some questions to you folks, and we'd love for you to participate as much as you'd like. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at the GoToWebinar control panel, on there you'll see a questions tab. Feel free to use this tab to answer any questions, ask any of your own questions, and make any comments along the way. After the webinar has been concluded, we do have a quick survey, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So now that we've taken care of all of that, let's meet our presenter, Sarah Juliona. Take it away, Sarah.
Great. Thanks, Andrea. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that today we can kind of break down the basics of a professional liability insurance policy. I know a lot of you are certainly familiar with professional liability insurance and being required to have it. Maybe we can teach you a few new things about the coverage and how to activate coverage to benefit you and protect your career. So, let's see. These are the topics that we're going to be talking about today, just briefly. I'll introduce CPH Insurance if you haven't heard about us, and we'll go through a standard professional liability insurance policy, how much it costs, some optional coverages that you might want to consider, and we'll go through some claims scenarios so that you can see how the policy actually works in cases that our insureds have faced. At the end, we'll have some FAQs as well. So first, just a little bit about CPH. We are an insurance agency that specializes in professional liability insurance for mental health professionals. And we've been doing this for just over 20 years now. Though we are based in Chicago, we can insure mental health providers throughout the US. And we're so proud to partner with TherapySites, and we really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. So I'll be talking about the standard professional liability insurance with CPH. And I think across most professional liability insurance companies, the policy coverages that are included should be pretty similar. So these are four main coverages that we'll be looking at today. First is your professional liability insurance. Next is the state licensing board investigation defense coverage. There's subpoena and deposition expense coverage, and our attorney helpline benefit. So these are all included in the CPH policy. So we'll start off with what is professional liability insurance. And you might have heard this called malpractice insurance or errors and omissions coverage, but these are all essentially three names for the same kind of coverage. When you think professional liability insurance, you can think coverage for the work that you're doing, your profession. So I've brought out the policy definitions of professional liability so you can see. And professional liability is coverage for sums, so meaning a judgment or settlement, that you become legally obligated to pay as damages because of a professional incident. And a professional incident would be an actual or alleged negligent act, error, or omission in the actual rendering of professional services. But basically, professional liability insurance covers you for malpractice claims and suits against your work. On a professional liability insurance policy, you'll see something called the policy limits. And so at CPH, we offer two sets of limits. One is 1 million per occurrence and 3 million aggregate, and the other is 1 million per occurrence and 5 million aggregate. And so the per occurrence limit means the policy will pay a maximum of $1 million per claim or suit. And then if there are multiple claims in 1 year, the policy will pay a maximum of $3 or $5 million. At CPH, we do offer options to increase these limits for certain state requirements in Minnesota, Virginia, and Oregon. And then also, if you have a lease or a contract that requires higher limits, we have options to increase for those. The policy also includes coverage for defense. So not only will it pay for the judgment or settlement in the claim, but it also pays for the legal fees and expenses to defend you. And this defense coverage is unlimited, so it's separate from the professional liability limits, meaning that legal fees and expenses to defend you will not diminish the liability limits available for a judgment or settlement. And those defense costs are all paid for by the policy. Professional liability insurance is portable coverage. So that means that it follows you wherever you can legally practice within the United States. So some examples of this would be walk and talk therapy, or if you're licensed in multiple states, or telehealth even. You don't need separate policies for each state where you're licensed, or we've heard a lot about getting registered to do telehealth in Florida, your policy can cover you everywhere that you can legally practice in the US. So if you have reciprocity or multiple licenses, you're covered in the US. Now, the next coverage we offer is state licensing board defense coverage. And this is up to $35,000 per year to cover legal expenses to defend you in a licensing board complaint or investigation. This is the most common type of claim that we see at CPH because it's unfortunately very easy for someone to file a board complaint versus filing a lawsuit. Many states have a very easy to use website for consumers where you can log in and you fill out a form and submit it against whoever your provider is. So we do see many more board complaints than lawsuits at CPH. So this is a really important coverage to make sure that you have it. At CPH, this is standard on our policies. And if you are insured with other insurance companies, I'd encourage you to just confirm that you have this coverage as well. We do offer options to increase the limits to $75,000 or $100,000. And this is something that we see with some of our group or business policies. So if you have multiple providers, it can be a good idea to increase those limits because the risk of seeing board complaints come in does increase when you have multiple providers. And next we have our deposition and subpoena expense coverage. And this is one that I always like to talk about because it's not as well known as coverage for lawsuits and board complaints, but it really does come in handy. So this is coverage for subpoenas that don't involve allegations that are being made against you, but you might be brought into a client's custody case or divorce, and their attorney might subpoena you to produce records or testimony. So in this situation where it's not clear how much information you should provide, if any, the policy provides up to $10,000 per subpoena or deposition to pay for an attorney to advise you on that process. So this is definitely something to check in on your own insurance to make sure that you have this coverage. This is a frequent claim type that we see as well. And then finally, we have our avoiding liability helpline. And so at CPH, we offer to our policyholders up to 2 free hours of consultation with a malpractice attorney for questions involving an active situation with the client that might be a little tricky or not quite sure how to handle it. So this can involve something like a request for records or mandated reporting questions about disclosure of abuse. So this is something that you can schedule either by calling our office or online. We have that available this year. The appointments are set up in half-hour blocks, and essentially you just provide to CPH a brief summary of the situation and then your availability, and then we can set up the appointment usually within a few business days of your call. So this is our most frequently used policy benefit. All right, so the next question we always get is, how much does insurance cost? So at CPH, we offer two different kinds of policies. You can policy if you are a W-2 employee or contractor, or you can apply for a business policy if you have an LLC or corporation. So looking at the individual policy rates, these are based on your level of licensure. So students, that rate is $15 for the year. Associates or provisionally licensed providers start at $90. Licensed providers, the rate is based on your employment category. So if you're a W-2 employee or a contractor. If you're a W-2, the rate is a flat rate and covers you at $115 for the year. If you're a contractor, the rate ranges from $115 to $320 for the year based on the number of hours that you work. So if you work more hours, the rate will be higher. And these rates are for most occupations in our mental health field. So thinking therapists, counselors, social workers, and these are at the limits of $1 million per occurrence and $3 million aggregate. Now, if you have a business, since the business policy would cover the business, its owners, its employees, volunteers, and students, the rate is going to be based on the number of people in the business. So when you apply with us or when you're renewing, we'll ask you to provide a staff list listing all owners, employees, and students, and then the rates are based on their level of licensure. So each owner would cost about $320 per person. Each W-2 employee, if they're licensed, would be $115. Associates and provisional are $90, and students are $15. See how the rates between the individual and the business do match up. A note is that independent contractors, if you have them, they should maintain their own separate insurance since they won't be covered by the business policy. All right, so now we'll look at some optional coverages that you might consider if for scenarios like if you have an office that you're renting, if you have employees, these are things that you can add to your professional liability insurance policy. So first we have additional insureds, and this is a very common requirement. This being added all the time. An additional insured is a landlord, an employer, someone that you work for, or a property manager that wants to be added to your policy, and that gives them secondary coverage. So if they're named in a suit involving services that you provide for them or an incident that occurs at the office that you're renting from them, they would get secondary coverage on your policy. And we do recommend only adding them if it's required by a lease or contract, because it doesn't give any benefit to you to add an additional insured. It just gives coverage to that entity. At CPH, we do have a charge for additional insureds. It's 10% of the professional liability premium, but landlords are free to add. Next, we offer general liability insurance, and this is something that you would consider if you're rent leasing, and this provides slip and fall coverage. So for an injury that occurs at your office, so maybe someone falls down the stairs or trips on the carpet, they injure themselves, and they hold you liable for the injury. So we offer this coverage at a limit of 1 million per occurrence and 3 million aggregate. And the premium is based on the number of locations that you have. If you have just one office, it's going to be $182 for the year. And then each additional location is $60. Another coverage you want to consider if you have an office is business personal property coverage. And this covers the contents of your office. So things like your desk or computer, if they're damaged. You do have to have general liability in order to add the business personal property coverage. And we offer it at a limit of $15,000 with a $500 deductible. And the premium is $150 to add this. And you have both the general liability and business personal property. You have the option to add business income and extra expense coverage. So this income lost due to some type of physical damage to your office building. So there are covered causes of loss listed here. So it's a very specific coverage that'll cover you if there's some type of physical damage, like a fire at the building, and so your landlord shuts down the office or the building for repair, and you're unable to work during that time. This would cover the loss of income. We offer this at a $250,000 limit. The premium is $50. So this is something to consider. I will note that it is specifically for physical loss or damage. It doesn't cover being shut down due to infectious disease. That is a question that we got a lot during the pandemic, unfortunately. Next, we have cyber liability, and this is a coverage that is getting a lot of popularity now that most people are working online and everything. A lot of people are working with client files and storing them on their computers. So this provides coverage for data breach of clients' information. So if you store protected health information on your computer or server, this would cover you if there were a hack or a breach of that information. So typically what happens in a cyber claim is if you notice a breach, you would report that to your insurance company immediately. And this pays for a forensic team to investigate the breach. It'll pay for their costs and the cost of an attorney to help you with notification of customers and find out if you're required to notify any regulatory bodies. So we offer this in two limits. There's a $15,000 limit, which would cost $87, or a $25,000 limit, which costs $141. If you have employees, then this is a coverage if you have any employees who are driving their own vehicles for business purposes. So this protects your business from liability from that employee driving their own car. So say they're going to the bank or to the post office to pick up a package for the business, and they get into an accident and they cause damage. If your business is held liable because they were on the job when they did that, this policy does cover you for that type of liability. It does not cover collision or physical damage to your employees' vehicles, so they do have to maintain their own personal auto insurance. The rate for this coverage is based on the number of employees that you have. So if you have from 1 to 10 employees, it'll cost $80. And then after that, each additional person is $8 per person. A note is that if you transport clients, we can't add this coverage because our policy is not built for that. So you would have to get that elsewhere. Vicarious sexual abuse and molestation coverage is another endorsement to consider if you have employees. So this covers you if you are held liable for another person's abusive conduct. So thinking employees or supervisees, if you are held vicariously liable due to some type of negligent supervision, reporting or employment practices. This would cover you if you are also named in a suit. So this policy provides a $1 million limit. And this one is, it is sort of expensive. It is $300 for the first person, and then $50 for each additional person. And it's available to, it's really intended for groups with employees. All right, so now we'll look at the claims process. So you can see how you can activate your coverage and what happens when you file a claim with your insurance company. So the first thing that usually happens is that you would receive notice of a board complaint, lawsuit, or subpoena. So you'll want to report that immediately to your insurance company. At CPH, we send our claims to our insurance carrier. They're called Philadelphia Insurance. And then the insurance carrier has a team of claims examiners, and you'll be assigned one of them, and they'll verify the coverage and assign an attorney to you to assist you. Your duty as an insured is to notify us immediately when you receive notice of a claim. And so we always like to mention this in presentations just to emphasize the importance of speed. So the sooner that you notify us, the sooner that we can get an attorney assigned to you, and the better prepared we are to defend you. So it helps every party to make sure that any notice of complaint or subpoena is reported to your insurance company immediately so they can get started. So if you are with CPH, this is where you can file a claim. You'll log into your CPH customer portal and you'll see a section that says report a claim. And you'll choose either report a claim or incident for most claims you're reporting, or report a subpoena or deposition. And this one is just for subpoenas and depositions. If you can't access the online account, you can also submit a manual form by email or fax, and you can contact our office so we can send that to you. In the incident report, there are just a few questions asking you about dates of treatment, when you're required to respond, and then a brief summary of what's occurred. And then you can also upload a copy of either the subpoena or the notice of complaint or demand letter to go with your claim. Once that is submitted to us, we send that to our insurance carrier along with a copy of your policy documents. All of our claims are expedited and sent to the carrier the same day, and you'll be assigned, or the carrier will assign a claims examiner who will contact you within 2 to 3 business days. So as I said, our insurance carrier is Philadelphia Insurance Company, and they have a team of claims examiners that are dedicated to mental health professional liability insurance. So they are experts in dealing with CPH mental health malpractice claims. So you'll be speaking to a claims examiner who is going to verify the coverage based on the allegations and the dates of treatment to ensure that there is coverage. And then once the coverage is verified, your claims examiner will select an approved attorney based on your venue. So typically what happens is they will assign an attorney from Philadelphia's attorney panel, and they have attorneys in each state. A question that we do get a lot is if you can you work with a your own attorney or your preferred attorney? And this is something that you can discuss with your claims examiner. It does have to be approved by them, but you can discuss it with them just to find out if your own attorney can be assigned to the claim. All right, so now we'll look at some claim scenarios. And these are claims that our CPH policyholders have faced. So we can look at the case and the outcome as well. All right, so first we have a subpoena, and this involves an individual policy for a licensed clinical social worker. So in this case, our insured provided reunification therapy with a father and his children. The parents are involved in a contentious custody dispute. The mom is trying to prevent the reunification therapy from happening, and her attorney served a subpoena for the insured's testimony at a hearing. So how is it covered? So you know that the insured has the subpoena and deposition coverage, which is up to $10,000 of legal costs. So an attorney was assigned to assist the insured at the 3 hearings when the insured did comply with the subpoena. And the attorney fees were about $2,500, all paid for by the policy. Next, we'll look at a board complaint, and this also involves an individual policy for a licensed clinical social worker. There was a board complaint filed by the non-custodial parent of a minor client, and the court has been denying the parent the clinical records for 2 years. So the insured was named in a board complaint alleging general unprofessional misconduct and failure to disclose information. And there is a note from our claims team that about 30% of our board complaints are some version of this story, meaning that a lot of them do involve custody disputes. So the insured has their $35,000 of state licensing board defense coverage, and an attorney assisted the insured with their response to the board. Ultimately, the board reviewed the response written by the attorney and the insured, and the matter was dismissed without any disciplinary action. The total defense costs for the attorney was $6,500. So this case is an interesting one to look at because you can see how the insurance can help even in situations where it's ultimately decided you did nothing wrong. The board dismissed the case, but the insurance policy provided the attorney and paid for their defense costs and helped them all the way to the end of the complaint. Finally, we have a lawsuit, and this involves a business policy, and the owner of the business is a licensed professional counselor. So in this case, an adult client died by suicide. The client's family filed a lawsuit against the insured, the client psychiatrist, and the hospital where the client was a patient. There were allegations of unprofessional misconduct and not referring to a higher level of care. Since the client was a high earner, the family sought significant monetary damages. So this lawsuit was covered because all dates of treatment fell under the policy period. The defense costs are unlimited, and the professional liability limit for the settlement is up to $1 million. So it was ultimately decided that the settlement was $195,000, and the defense costs were $135,000. So in this case, there were multiple parties named. So the insured, the psychiatrist, and the hospital. So all 3 of those insurance companies subrogate or work together to find the percentage of fault. So in this case, the total agreed payout was $650,000 for all parties, but our insurance portion was 30% of that. So it came out to $195,000. The initial demand was for over $2 million. And cases like this do tend to go back and forth for a long time, which increase defense costs until an agreement is made. But this was considered a pretty good outcome for our insured. All right, and now we'll go over some FAQs. So these are questions that we get a lot on our customer service line about the policy. So first is, does the policy cover supervision? And yes, it does. So supervision services are automatically covered as long as you are legally allowed to provide that service with your license. You don't have to add any endorsements to be covered for supervision. It's automatic. Do you cover animal-assisted therapy services? And yes, we do. So the professional liability insurance policy, it will cover animal-assisted therapy services that you can legally provide within the scope of your license. However, we do recommend taking out a separate general liability policy that covers injury caused by animals, because our general liability policy, that optional coverage we discussed, it does have an exclusion for injury caused by animals. So we'd recommend going with a local agent that can cover that kind of injury. Do you offer discounts? And yes, we do. So we have a 10% risk management discount, and you can get this by completing a course in law or ethics in your profession within the past 24 months. We offer a 5% online discount for applying and binding a policy online. We also offer a newly licensed discount for our individual policyholders. So if you recently became licensed in the past 12 or 24 months, you can get a discount for that. And then we also offer group discounts for our business policies. So these are all available in the new application on our website and by renewing your policy as well. And then, can the policy cover additional occupations and licenses? So say you are a counselor, but you also are a marriage and family therapist. So yes, we can. You can cover multiple occupations on one policy as long as they're within the mental and allied health field. So there's a list of the occupations. So behavior consultants, early child intervention, social workers, psychologists, and there are many more on our website as well. That is all that I have for you today. So thank you all for joining the session. If you have any questions or you want to take a look at CPH, maybe get a quote to compare your rates, you can visit us at cphins.com. And feel free to send us any questions or emails at info@cphins.com. And you can also reach us at our phone number here. And so I'll leave it to Andrea now.
Yeah, thank you. What a really great presentation. I took like a page of notes. I think you shared so much valuable information about malpractice insurance and in order to run a successful practice. So thank you so much. At TherapySites, we work with mental health professionals to help them create a professional looking website and ensure they can be found online where and when their clients are searching in order to help increase new client acquisition. We encourage the practices we work with to build a website that's a reflection of themselves, but also to create a marketing strategy that allows them to achieve their goals. Our solutions make it easy to schedule appointments online, create a network of referrals via social media, and even the ability to interact with clients from virtually anywhere from our telehealth platform. So as a special thank you for being here today, we are extending a special webinar offer to get a brand new, beautiful website design for only $99. Feel free to also take our poll. If you'd like to learn more about TherapySites, feel free to reach out to us at webinar@therapysites.com, or you can reach us at 866-597-2674. I'll put it in the chat. Feel free to provide us your feedback about the event today via our post-appointment survey. We'd love to hear your feedback. And we really do appreciate you taking the time to participate in our webinar event. I really appreciate it. We do have a couple of questions. So Sarah, if you want to hang on for just a few moments, let me see if I can't run back to those. So one of the questions was, will the portable policy cover outside of the United States?
I see. So unfortunately, our coverage territory is only the US, Puerto Rico, and Canada.
Okay.
So it's only
all right.
those territories.
All right, perfect. And then another question that came through was, for private practice therapists who get a W-2, what level would we pay?
If you are
went through some of the pricing.
Yes, if you're a W-2, that rate would be $115. However, if you have an LLC or corporation, we'd recommend applying for a business policy to ensure that your business is covered as well. So that the business policy for a single person business would be $320.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And then you mentioned the avoiding liability helpline, and you talked about being like 2 hours of consultation available. Is that on a monthly basis, an annual basis, those 2 hours of available
Yes, it's
help
per year.
per year? Okay. Let me see what else I had on here. You also talked about adding additional insured, like your landlord, and you said that the landlord was free. Is that something that you recommend if you're renting space from a location, or is that only if the landlord requires it?
We would recommend only adding it if the landlord asks for it, and usually
Okay.
they will be pretty clear about their requirements, because if adding the landlord doesn't help you in any way, it just gives coverage to the landlord.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And then you also talked about no transportation for clients. So maybe if you could give us an example of that, like if that would be if I was going to pick up a client and transport them to my office, but they weren't covered.
Right. Yep. So the for the hired and non-owned auto coverage, we can't offer it if you are transporting patients or driving
Okay.
them.
Okay.
You would have to get the coverage with a different company.
Okay. All right. So this is only if I'm like going to pick somebody up and bringing them back to my office versus me going to their location or us doing a telehealth visit.
Right. Right.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I think there's one other one here. Let me make it a little bit bigger so I can see it. Um, does your insurance policy get raised if there is a claim, like the last one, or do you drop the person from the policy?
No. So filing a claim does not affect the insurance rates.
Okay, that's good to know. Let's see if there was anything else. You answered that one. You answered that one. So you said that the core liability insurance was the professional liability insurance. That's kind of like the main standard. And then you have a whole slew of other optional coverages that somebody could add on in addition to that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And all of the rates that you mentioned for the additional coverage, that's a yearly quote. So for
Yes.
example, like the general liability slip and falls, it was 182. That's an annual
Yes.
charge. Okay. All right. Cool. I think we got to everybody's questions. Anything else that you typically answer on a pretty frequent basis, or you covered those as well?
Not that I can think of at the
Okay,
moment, but if anything does pop up,
of
everyone
course.
is welcome to reach out, and we're happy to help.
All right, well, let me throw in the TherapySites email and phone number so that just in case any of you folks that are here with us today want to try to reach out to us. So I'll throw that in the chat as well. So let me get that there for you guys. And I did include the cphins.com website so that you guys could access that. But Sarah also mentioned the email at info@cphins.com and the phone number 800-875-1911. I think we might be able to end our session a little bit early today. I don't think there's any other questions. So Sarah, thank you again so much for taking some time out of your day. I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody that joined us today learned a little something. And again, if you need to reach out to us, you've got our contact information as well. But enjoy the rest of the day. Hopefully your weather is picking up. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrea, and take care,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.